Hello all. This video captures an issue with the Plesk Control Panel and using the preview option when trying to preview a website. So in the process of developing a new page or new site using a new technology, PHP, I noticed that the site would work on my dev box, the old saying, it works on my box, but wouldn't work when it was deployed in a production environment. And I was consistently going through here. I tried the open in web feature. That just failed with a security issue very early on, so I never went back to it, and I started using preview. But I noticed my pages were getting corrupted, and it was kind of driving me nuts because I didn't know what was causing it. I didn't know if it was something in the way I had used some of the features of PHP, as I had a lot of nested buffering going on. And I took it for granted that they are stackable, and even though the documentation says they're stackable, who knows what's going on. Some of this looked like even threading issues. I was also using the newest version of PHP 8.2, and the hosting provider was only using 8, so I didn't know if that was made a compatibility issue. So this is kind of depicts the issue and part of my journey into discovering it. So first thing we'll take a look at is my production box. So this is the way the site should be displayed. It's a very simple site. It's only got a few sections in it, and you can drill down all the way to the bottom, and the bottom's got the copyright on it. So what would happen when I would view the site through the preview feature is, we'll show it to you right here. So you can see it gets corrupted. The last section is missing. The copyright is missing. This is completely out of place. This should be layout should actually be underneath the layouts and not under Contact Us. And this is a result of the response actually getting corrupted. And through the journey, I actually had troubleshoot and looked at the PHP program again and produced a static page as a result of the PHP executing, and I still had the exact same result. So executing an HTML file. So what I wound up doing is I wound up developing a little diagnostic page to help troubleshoot the issue, or at least depict the issue, although it was never actually resolved. So the page I developed, diagnostic pages, in VS Code, and this is it. It's just basically a very simple script that outputs a bunch of numbers according to roughly the byte count in the response. And there's two divs that I display just in case one gets truncated, and at the very end I display the bytes passed, because if it gets to the very end it means that it succeeded, but more often than not, somewhere in the middle here, even though this fully executes fine, you'll see in a minute the results and how they get kind of chunked and overlapped with each other. So I'll go back to our web page, and here you actually see the results of trying to get a response of generating a page basically of 1 megabyte. And it only received 959,000 bytes, so we didn't get the success message. And there's another one over here. Let's see, this one is of just 100K, and we see it's failing at around 91,000 bytes. So what is actually happening here is we'll go to VS Code, as I copied the content of this page and I dumped it in VS Code, and we'll see that right here. That's doing that, and you'll see that this just goes through sequentially through the bytes, and we see that at row 1040 or 1042 and 1041 that the corruption starts. At 1041 we've processed 52,714. At 1042, we can see right here, right before the first div starts, is that this is where the stream gets compromised. And it seems to repeat, or a chunk of it repeats itself, and now we're back down to 44,000. And if we continue on, we'll see the same thing happens again at 159,000 bytes, and now skips back to 151,000 bytes. And this one gets corrupted at 372,000, and it skips back to 364,000. So it doesn't matter whether this is a PHP page, so there's no issue with PHP because I've tried this with static pages. The interesting thing to note, though, is it is repeatable given the same markup. But if I change the markup slightly, these breakpoints will differ, and they won't exactly be in the same byte place. They can be somewhere totally different. So obviously, if you've got a lot of markup, it'll break in the markup and it will mess up the page, and it's clearly, you can see that clearly with a previous example. So another interesting thing about these responses is if you're looking at this, you'll almost make the assumption that the stream is getting truncated, but it's actually not. As we saw in the diagnostics using Visual Studio in the individual elements that they're repeating, the actual length of the response is correct. So we'll compare the failed response with the good response, and I have these up in Fiddler, which just crashed on me. How about that? How lovely. Well, we're back. I rebooted Fiddler and I got the trace again. So we can see from the Plesk site that it repeatedly fails, but the length of the body is still the same. So, but the corruption still exists on each one of these. So you see failed, failed down here, and when we use website, go to website, it's fine. Each one passes. So we had another Fiddler crash, so we're back to our control panel. And the moral of the story, use caution when using Preview. I don't know when they're going to fix the bug. I submitted with our hosting provider, and we had a lot of going back and forth. And they indicated that it's a Plesk issue, and nobody ever found this bug before. So it may take them a while to respond. I didn't probe further to see what issue they had as far as what version they were hosting. But the moral of the story here, we're going to close our other tabs. Let's see. Close other tabs. And we're going to open this up, and we'll do the open web up. And you see that is corrupted, and when we use open in the web, it's not corrupted. So stick with open in the web. Okay, hopefully everybody found this helpful. Thank you.